And then you would do the actual roar, the repeated oral assisted reading. About 10 to 12 minutes would be all that you should expect. This is hard work. It takes a lot of concentration, and you'll begin to see that it will start to kind of break down. Any of us that are put to task mentally, after a while, it's just too much, and you get fatigued. So we'll do it for about that long. That would be ideal. And the way that we're going to do it is that I'm going to model for him first. I'm going to read it. I'm going to track up above the print, and he's going to track with his finger below the print. We want to avoid jumping from word to word. You want to have a nice smooth flow, and I'll tell them, always make sure that your finger is pointing to the part of the word that you are reading. And with some students, depending on, what their difficulties are, I may add in that you make sure you catch the beginnings and the endings of all words, but we're going to just slide. We don't want to be choppy. And this is where you can model the flow, and you can model, the punctuation. The punctuation is also part of the print. But on that cold read, if it's choppy or if they blow past the punctuation, it doesn't, count at that point, or on the hot read. But this is where you're going to actually model some of that. Some people will track, sometimes gimmicks and things are fun. You can buy the little witchy fingers at Halloween. We also have, do you like the finger? No. So the kids find out quickly that sometimes the witchy fingers get stuck on your finger, and then you sweat inside them also. But it's fun. I have one student that won't track unless she has her special hot pink highlighter. I don't even think the marker works anymore, but she has to have her tool for when she's tracking. But the important thing is that you're focusing in on the part of the word that you're reading at that point. If they get ahead of you, I stop and I make them come back. They need to be with me. If they're ahead, they're probably not paying attention, not focused. And at that point, they're wasting their time. And, this time is work time, and it's precious. So we want to use it the right way. Did I forget anything that you can think of? Okay, so what we do is I'll read it first, the text, and I'll go a little bit faster. I kind of have to judge it. I'll try and push him a little bit. I may be pushing him, I may not, but I'm going to try and push him a little bit. And then we'll read it together. So he'll be hearing it again, and he'll be tracking it again with me, and I'm going to have him read it on his own. At that point, if he gets through the sentence and he hasn't made any errors, then I have to decide, is it time to go on to the next sentence? If it wasn't fluent, if it was choppy, then I say, well, let's try it again. And we go back and you do the whole process again. My turn, our turn, your turn, until we have a nice flow with it, because that's kind of what we're going for, as well, that flow. Once we've done a few sentences, then we're going to really put him to the test, and we're going to do it with a bigger chunk of words. So and the same process again. I read, and I'll read the whole chunk. We'll read it together, and then he'll read it. Okay, shall we do some? All right. My turn first. And can you get right up there next to word? All right. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. All right, listen to me read it one more time. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. All right, I'm going to go one more time. All right, I'll slow down a little bit too. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. All right, all on your own.
Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair.
I think you can do better than that, so we're going to do it one more time. My turn. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair.
Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair.
All right, good. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear.
She lived in the woods
and had a pet. Yep, all right, I'll go again. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. All right, your turn.
She lived in the woods and had a pet bear.
Okay. Now, he's been reading for a long time this morning, and his brain is starting to shut down on him. So even these two lines are giving him trouble. So I'm going to chunk just that much, because I want him to get, that flow. So we're going to try and put them both, and there's some tricky words in here. So we'll just do our best, won't we? All right. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. All right, I'm going to go one more time because I know you can do it. Okay, so my turn first. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. Deep breath. You ready?
Aunt Betty. Aunt Bet.
All right, yeah. All right, so I'm going to go one more time. We have this. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. Let's just do that.
Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair.
All right, and sometimes it just something gets stuck in your brain, and so sometimes we'll go back, just hit that part until till they can get past it, and he'll realize when he gets to it that, wait, this is where I need to super focus because for some reason this is just tripping me up. Sometimes I'll say, it's the text against you, and it happens with adults, it happens with everybody. The text will trick you, your brain will play tricks on you, and so sometimes a phrase we use also is that your eyes are in charge. Your eyes tell your brain, what it's seeing, what to read, so your eyes get to tell your brain. All right, so very carefully, let's, which part were we on? Were you going to read it solo, or were we? Oh, we were going to do 2 lines. All right, here we go. My turn first. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear. All right, on your own.
Aunt Bet was a lady who had red hair. She lived in the woods and had a pet bear.
All right, excellent. So, and then we would continue on sentence by sentence, and we might chunk this whole page. We may not. It depends on, the reader and their mental, how hard they've been working all morning, so whether they're ready for that. You will have, like all of us, we'll have good days and we'll have days that are not so good. The most important thing is to make sure that they are focusing, they're working. It's about them and what they need. If they're shutting down, just kind of ease off. Don't try and make it stressful. It's not supposed to be torture. Just kind of keep it light and easy. So we would do this for about 10 minutes or so practice, and it does. It builds their flow. It gets them going. All right, then let me see. I'll make sure I'm catching all of this here. Make sure that they're tracking with you at every step, because there's so much repetition, and maybe you've noticed this too, Justin. Sometimes their minds, they have it memorized, and so you can usually tell because their finger won't be anywhere near when they're tracking what they're supposed to be reading. So if they're doing that, then call them back. If their finger gets ahead, then that's my signal that they need to come back to where I am. And so, call them on that and say, no, let's come back and let's do it again. You need to be with me. You need to be tracking where I'm at. If their finger is behind and they're still saying it, they have it memorized, then, kind of call their attention back to focusing on what it is. You're focusing on the word that they're on. You need to be pointing at the word that you're on.